Without any further ado, I'll hand the screen over to Gert-Jan.
Thank you, Chris. The global grant at Sint Maarten is for $340,000, so quite a lot of money. And after Hurricane Irma, we tried to rebuild that, you could say that community center of Middle region with 5,000 people in there who are really children at risk, etc., to give them a new hope with a new school and a catalyst. The EndPlasticSoup initiative started 3 years ago, and I'm really excited and proud about this initiative to cause something within the Rotary and outside Rotary for our planet, and also to show how you can unite together and achieve something that goes far beyond plastic pollution, that enables us to really attack the more complicated matters of environment. Let me show you my presentation about river projects and then give also space to some other discussions maybe for all of you. And of course you can achieve us at these websites and Facebook, Instagram and Gmail accounts. This was the introduction that was shown by Salvador Rico last week. We are a global environmental initiative for Rotary, now working together with SRAC, but also WASRAC and RAC for Peace and RAC for Community Development. And I think the goal that we set was pretty amazing, but we believe Rotary and Rotaract and Interact together can accelerate the solutions needed to solve the plastic pollution problem. And we do that across the full cycle, at the beginning to find different materials, to create different products and work with the industry to do that, to reduce by having different materials, but also by allowing all of us to not use single-use plastics anymore, or to reuse our clothes, for example, which are a real source of dust, plastic dust, and reuse other products so that we don't have to rebuild them again. And at the end, to collect and recycle such that we get towards a full circular economy in the coming years. One definition up front, plastic soup, was chosen by us because it's a real resonating name, and plastic soup sounds good. It was also a name that was available at the internet, and we could use that name, but it's meant to define all the plastic waste in our environment. So not just in the waters, but all plastic waste. And that's also for a good reason, because most of the plastic waste, 80% to be exact, that is on our land, in the air, landfills, 80% of that ends up in the oceans sooner or later, through the rivers or through the air. And that's why this river in Indonesia, on the Moluccan island of Saparua, which was a former colony of Holland, so we still have many relatives here in my hometown of Huizen that work there, and that's why we also do a project over there, are not used to collect the plastic waste. They don't have a waste management system on these islands because they are too small, you could say, for the tablecloth and too large for the napkin. And that means that almost all the islands in Indonesia and the Caribbean, they don't have the economic scale to really set up a good waste management system. And that's why you see landfills all over the place. And we think that we can help accelerate solutions for that. That's at least what we do in Sint Maarten. We do it in the Indonesian islands. And I think it's a good way. It talks about bringing the factory to the plastic waste instead of bringing the plastic waste to the factory. We work across the full cycle, as I said, and our slogans are awareness, action, and alliances, which means it all starts with awareness, education, and prevention with the youth, the next generation, and they will learn the adults, they will learn our parents, etc. And then it starts with action, and I call it now the decade of doing, because these 10 years, 2021 till 2030, are really important to make a step forward for our climate, for our planet, but especially for us human beings, because the planet will be there, but we will not. And that's why we say, come in action, be people of action. We are people of action, but it's also a matter of just doing. Don't be activist, just start doing, creating a different atmosphere of working together, create a different consumption pattern, and create different products and ways to reduce the pollution for our planet. And alliances, we cannot do this alone. We need everybody on this planet to work together. We need safe free plastic waters. We need Sergio, we need Chris, we need Ezra, we need everybody. And that's why we think that the best way to do that is also work locally in the communities, because these communities, they are tangible. You can grab them. You can do something there. You can talk to your neighbors, to your friends, to your family, and you know what resonates, what will work, what is the best approach to use, and what are the priorities for that nation, for that region. We cannot tell from Western countries what is best to do in Kenya or Ethiopia or Latin America or Far East. They have to tell what is the best way to change the law or to change legislation, to use different products. Like we work with Unilever in Indonesia to find different ways of using these sachets for shampoo, etc. And with Nestle to find different ways and work with the industry. We have to do it together. Our goals, our objectives for the next 5 years is just to ask 1,000 clubs to take action, 100,000 Rotarians to use less plastic themselves. We teach children. We do that by Teach the Teacher. We use plastic-free events. Plastic-free means zero rest waste, or at least minimum of rest waste. Officially, formulation or definition is maximum 5% waste on an event. Accelerate solutions. And that's where we can contribute as Rotary. We have so many connections. We are all people that have proved themselves in our working lives, different classifications, that we actually can cause an impact and we can work together with others. And by working together, by influencing our governments, by influencing the industry, we can accelerate solutions. We can take away the inhibitors to make a change. And at the end, we want to do projects and want to support the Global Grant Project, and we'll give you some examples. Here you see an example of Uganda in Africa, where we now are talking to set up a waste management system, including recycling, including collecting, but especially including education. And working together, for example, with the Techniker ohne Grenzen, Maria, the people from Germany that have assembled the technological people to work on good ways to do that, and working with the Rotary clubs in Uganda. Also by education, you see here Everwave, the company in Germany that created the education material and that we are now using all over Germany. And they also have innovation power to really cause a difference in how we collect and how we can then work further together. We have awareness action days, and most of them are cleanups, but slightly it's changing. It's changing in really awareness things. It's working with children like Maria Ritterfeld did in a zoo to collect and to find what is there so that people become really aware, working with movies or working with other ways to really pay the attention. And that's what we now try to do at least 3 times a year around the 22nd of March, which is World Water Day, around the second Saturday of June, which is our EndPlasticSoup Worldwide Action Day, but it's also very close to the 5th of June, which is always the World Environment Day of the United Nations, and around 26th of September, pretty soon, next month, the World Environment Day, World Cleanup Day that started in, I think it was Estland or Letland, about in 2008, when they cleaned up the country in one day using 200,000 people, and that set the example for the rest of the world, and is pretty popular in many countries. And the 26th of September, since 2005, the World Rivers Day of the United Nations, to really pay attention to the really important things of rivers. So these are awareness days, and by doing that, we show ourselves as Rotarians, we also give the example, and we can get people in action. We use innovations, education, alternatives by working together with research centers, but also on collecting and recycling. We'll show you a few examples of those, especially around rivers. But important here is also the recycling, because the recycling, you see recycling initiatives all over the world nowadays, thousands of them just in India alone. But many are not sustainable because the business model is not good, or because the environment is impacted in a wrong way. For example, creating highways with mixed plastic together with concrete and cement and sand, etc., to create highways that just become 5% cheaper is not the way to do it, because of the, the robustness of cars driving over it, and it just leaks microplastics to nature. We shouldn't do that. You can never get rid of them again. Although it's pretty popular in India, we should try to avoid that. And the only way to do that is by looking into new ways of finding out. Gert-Jan presented, I think, last week on the Rio Grande, and one of the issues he has is with car tires. In Western European countries, it's forbidden to dump car tires somewhere. That's legislation, but also the manufacturers of car tires and the car manufacturers and the garages around this, they have a duty to collect the car tires and then process them in a good way. And there are also good and bad ways. And slowly now we have found out good ways to do that. And let's export these good ideas to Mexico, so that Gert-Jan and all her people can make use of those in new innovations. And the bad innovations are that you're just cutting them and put them on hockey or soccer fields as a kind of artificial grass. But the good ways are to really process them in a full circular way, so that you don't cause any damage. There are also better ways than the old ones, like pyrolysis to make oil from plastic, or to burn it in incinerators totally at the end, that do not produce carbon dioxide. The Japanese now have these sold to the Philippines. We think it's not the best way, but it's the good way at the moment. There's so much plastic on the Philippines in the Manila Bay. You cannot recycle all of it. We should start today with recycling. We should build it out step to step, but in order to prevent plastic pollution hit nature, we can better than incinerate it. On the recycling, we are now trying to build houses with mobile recycling factories, and these are giving a quite new dimension to recycling, because everybody can use bricks for housing, and these bricks are made totally from mixed plastic. So the really dirty plastic, Sergio, the plastic you find in the oceans, the plastic you find in the rivers. It smells. Please don't use it inside, because it's not good for your nose and not good for your health. But on the outside, you can use it, and in the inside you put some wood, and these are fully certified according to European Union laws, and also meet all the environmental criteria. We have produced now a house for the Floriade, which is the big exhibition once every 10 years in Holland that starts next year, 14th of April, 2022. And the house has a roof, the roof tiles from Kenya, but all the bricks are made from the house collected plastics from the community of Almere, a city of 200,000 people. And they pre-collect all the plastics, and then we build those bricks. And the real innovative thing about it is not just the architecture and the design, It's fully, I say that you can take it apart again, you can reuse it, and you can even shred the plastic bricks again if you want. But the molds, you say that the molds, the forms that are being used to make those bricks is an innovation that you can do everywhere in the world. For just under $1,000, you can make them. Up till now, these molds were like $50,000 to produce chairs or to produce complex products. And so we're working on to do that. And you're all invited to come to Holland next year. Go to the Floriade. We have meeting centers over there. It's a big exhibition. They expect 1 million visitors at least. They hope for 2.5 million. And it's a great way to talk together about these new innovations. Of course, like I said here, we also talk together with the Plastic Soup Foundation on the consequences for health. You see it at the right side. The second Plastic Health Conference is on the 21st of October. You can all find these dates on our website and EndPlasticSoup.org, upcoming events. But this will really, I think, shake the world. Because 2 years ago, we couldn't prove things. We couldn't prove that plastic was bad for your health, that it influenced your hormone system, that it caused cancer, etc. And now we can. So I think it's good to be there. You can attend live at this Amsterdam. It's a mixed hybrid festival. I will be there myself, but you can also follow it online. One of the projects that I want to show you for rivers is the project in Holland on the river Old Rhine in Katwijk. And then we all think, well, Holland, it's a clean country, it's nice, etc. Why should you want to do something about the environment over there? Well, there's a lot of microplastics in the Rhine. The Rhine flows all the way from Switzerland, Germany, BASF, Bayer, etc., all the way to Holland. And we are the big river delta of Europe. 45% of the country is under sea level. And so the water comes here and you find a lot of microplastics. You don't see it. Well, if you take it out, you can see it because it's still visible, but there are many, many particles. Together with the Thames in England, I think it's one of the most polluted rivers because of microplastics. And this hurts the economy over there. It attracts wrong bacteria. And what you see is that we've now had to find a solution for that, and that's a bubble barrier. It's a tube on the bottom of the river with holes in it and a compressor on one side, and it creates bubbles, a bubble curtain, taking all the plastic and all the other waste. By the way, bubbles don't make a difference between plastic and other materials, and put it to the side in a catchment system. And even the microplastics above 0.1 millimeter get to the side. So in this way, you can take out 86% of all the waste. And this had a challenge, and that's why this was a real new innovation, because it's just in front of the big pump station. And these pump stations are incredible capacity. They pump out the water out of Holland into the North Sea with like 20 cubic meters every minute. And then the bubbles had to be strong and smart enough, you could say. How can bubbles be smart enough? But the tube had to be smart enough to really still function, although sometimes, like in these flooding times, there's a lot of water that has to be pumped out. And also there was a second challenge, the glass eel, the baby eels. They are being born in the Saragossa Sea and the Atlantic, and they swim all the way back to Western Europe, swim up the rivers to become adult eels, and then they swim out again. And these glass eels had to swim back through the pump station and through the bubbles up to the river to get big. So these were challenges that they solved, and now we have a go for the project. It will be ready in June next year, and together with an education center. And we are very proud that EndPlasticSoup is one of the sponsors for this. I'll show you a little bit about the bubble barrier, so that you get a view. This is one that is in one of the canals.
Plastic is in Amsterdam een probleem, om meerdere redenen. We zijn werelderfgoedstad. Het is niet goed voor de eco. En naast dat het voor de grachten zelf niet goed is, het is wereldwijd een probleem. Dat weten we allemaal inmiddels. En daar waar wij het in Amsterdam kunnen opvangen, het plastic, komt het wereldwijd niet in zee terecht. Ook al zijn we maar heel klein als stad, alle kleine beetjes helpen. We werken samen met Waternet en het drijfvuilvissen. En om dat ook voor elkaar te krijgen is het zo dat de 4 drijfvuilvisboten van Waternet elke dag in Amsterdam bezig zijn. En die halen maar liefst 3500 kilo afval per dag op.
The bubble barrier is an air bubble curtain, and we create that by placing a tube on the bottom of the river, and through a lot of tiny holes in the tube, we then pump air through it, and the rising air bubbles create the bubble barrier. The air bubbles bring plastic which is drifting underwater to the surface, and then at the surface, together with the natural flow of the river, it will be guided to the side and into our catchment system. And this first bubble barrier means for us that we can stop any trash which is entering the city, doesn't flow out further to the North Sea, but also for us personally, it means that this is the first step to bring it to the world and hopefully stop plastic in rivers worldwide.
Wij willen de bubble barrier straks in meerdere plekken van Amsterdam neerleggen als blijkt dat het op deze eerste plek een succes is. En wie weet wat na Amsterdam nog meer volgt, want wij geloven in het initiatief.
So this was just one solution. Another innovative solution is a very cheap solution, a catchment system, a litter trap of clear rivers. It's installed in the harbors of Brussels and Amsterdam, and through the flow, the tide of the water, garbage flows in, and then the water streams out again with the garbage, because if this is kind of an intelligent system, it stays in, and you can take it out. And if you put this in hotspots in harbors, or a bend in the river where you see a lot of collection, you create a natural place for this garbage to be collected. You can also take a boat up to a dam or whatever where there's a lot of plastic waste, a hotspot, and then take it out like that. And this is another way. It's a passive system, but pretty ingenious. Then we have the Collectix cleaning technology of Everwave, where there is a boat together with a system of drones so that you can find out where is the waste, and you also with cameras to find out exactly what you collect. And that way you can photograph waste, but you can also count, and you can find the source of that waste. And that might give a possibility to detect where does it come from, who causes it, and what can you do. And this boat was here in February this year, and we go back in November to Bosnia-Herzegovina. The river Drina on the border with Serbia is a pretty polluted area, and you will see in the movie why that is. In fact, this is true for all former Yugoslavian states, and it ends up in the Mediterranean. This ends up in the river Duna, but...
Pollution. Polluted beyond belief. This is the Visegrad Dam on the river Drina in Bosnia-Herzegovina. February 2021. The cleanup mission begins with the Collectix boat. This is the first of many projects for Collectix and EndPlasticSoup.
You think, why the hell?
Coverage from the press came from Europe and as far away as the Washington Post. Rotary Aachen is the coordinating Rotary Club on this project. A huge challenge to clear the plastic waste from a highly polluted area. Currently, EndPlasticSoup cleanup actions are taking place on the River Danube in Serbia, and we plan to start a follow-up project in Bosnia-Herzegovina in November 2021. Not only will this remove much of the pollution, but it will also include an education and awareness program. EndPlasticSoup in action.
What you see is that the landfills are really the problem. There's no waste management, and by awareness and working with the government, because this is what this small little boat can do. Well, we needed several weeks to clean up the mess, but in fact, it's a one-time cleanup. What you want to achieve is a second mission in November, And that's where we now establish a full project together with the Rotary clubs in Wiesbaden, Aachen, and the Rotary Club in Bosnia-Herzegovina, so that really you can work with the governments and say what's needed to install a waste management system. What can you do to prevent the waste ending up there? What can you do to remove the landfills? Other examples are, this project has been shown before, I think 2 weeks ago, or in one of the Zoom session I was with the club of Gomer, San Ignacio Vigio. Sorry, Britia, for my bad pronunciation of the Spanish. They used a fishing net filled with bottles and then have a curtain fixed to it that you pull across a river. And especially during the days when there's a lot of rainfall, a lot of stormy weather, all the trash runs down with the water from the mountains. And you pull the curtain across the river and they take 80% of the garbage out. And that's an enormous effect for a system that's only $1,000. Yeah, so you can do this yourself. They do it several times a year. And sometimes they do it on the World Environment or EndPlasticSoup Action Day. But normally it's most effective during the stormy and rainy weathers. Then the boats will not sail, so you can just use the net across the river. And in all the areas, the regions and the clubs in Belize, this project has attracted a lot of attention. So you see several clubs that now repeat this. And I think it works fantastically as awareness, but it also helps you to work together to build fellowship. And in the end, of course, clean it up and find new solutions. This was on the Mopan River last June. And I think we can be very grateful that they have these innovative ideas, but also Gomer and his team, they look for new ways to prevent the plastic ending up there and to then do something with the mixed plastic that's there, because it's not clean plastic. You cannot just put it in a recycling system. You need different ways to do that. And that's what we have tried to find. This is another example of the River Ati in Kenya. Of course, working together, the people in Kenya of our ambassador clubs, and Janet, the environmental person for District 9212, they work together with the Washrach and Esrach and try to put actions in place for all the villages around the lake and the river, that they all have a stretch where they can do this and use recycling mechanisms. And Kenya is not bad at that, but there are also good and bad examples. And I think we can all learn from that and then keep the good ones and improve the bad ones. But we are very proud that they do this and raise such awareness among the many, many young people, and especially the Rotary clubs. There are many of them in Kenya. Britia already told you about the Rio Grande project. And I think it's fair to say that the cleanup is one thing. We now see that a lot of car tires have been found. What can we now do next to raise the awareness and to prevent the plastic or any other waste ending up in the rivers, polluting the rivers, and find ways to do something useful with it? And that's what we want to work with Anna, Britia, and all the people there. This was the project that was presented last Friday in the Ambassador Club meeting for EndPlasticSoup. On the Nile was a first phase done last year, where we gave 230 fishing nets to the fishermen and their families. And these fishermen, they use the nets to collect the plastic. Normally they sail out and they catch 2/3 of plastic and just a few fishes. And what do you do with plastic? You throw it overboard for the next fisherman to catch. Not a good idea. So now they have fisher nets and they get a refund system at this station that has been built together with the NGO Very Nile. And they get some money. In fact, they get twice the money that they make just by catching fish. They also catch plastic. And then we thought this is pretty amateuristic. It's a good way to start. But we can use a boat to do some of the work, especially at some hotspots in the Nile. And of course, when you see the amount of pollution, you sometimes get scary. You think, where do we find the solution? But these clubs over there in Cairo, they say, Gert-Jan, don't worry. We do what you told us. We start today, we do it step by step, and we do it together. And in that way, they make a step forward every time. And they have found the women of the fishermen to make bags and recycle things from plastic. They sell it, they make even more income. And I think we can be very proud of this project. This cleaning boat has also awareness and education and recycling in it. And we are now collecting money, funding it. Rotary Club Munich Land is the international coordinating club. And together with the clubs in Cairo and some help from several of the participating clubs to EndPlasticSoup, we will realize this boat with Verina. Will also do the next steps that are needed to build a sustainable solution. This is some information about the plastic. It's then collected 7 days a week. It's being segregated and in colors, etc. And then it's being compacted or shredded. And the PET is being recycled into fabrics, and HDPE plastic is recycled in non-food packaging. What we see is that today we have 2 plastic compactors, segregation compacting unit, and 4 people working there. But we need more, so we are now scaling up with the new cleaning boats, and I think it's pretty exciting to do that in that country. This is where the priority, the local approach of that country comes in, and that's what we cannot decide from the Western world. The initial investment is now like 55,000 euros, 60,000 euros, and together with the Rotary clubs, we can cover that. And then a solution has to be found for the operation, where Verina is also being supported by banks in Egypt. And I think it will be a very nice project. So the first boats and the things give some information. And that's why you also need to start now and do it step by step. You don't know what you're talking about till you measure, till you find out what you do, and then you get back and you say, we can do this differently, we can do this much better. So there's an OPEX cost per ton, and then in total you see that when you want to make this into a sustainable model, you will need the government to come into the picture to promote this, to set up a market, and to think about different products where there is a market to buy it. And this, so we will learn while doing. And here you see the fishermen. They don't have these big trailers like you have on the oceans, or like Sergio's used to them. These are the rowing boats that the fishermen are using. But nevertheless, when you have multiple of them, in this case 230, then you make a difference, because they sail out every hour of the day. Then back to the theme, World Cleanup Day, World Rivers Day, 18th to 26th of September. I think we can be very proud and happy, because now we work together with ESRAC, with the Rotary Action Group for Peace, with WASRAC and the Action Group for Community Economic Development. And this, I think, is the first real day that we all work together. Maybe we should have 3 days working all together, because these are awareness days, first of all, because climate change is impacting the rivers. We have seen the floodings, we see the drought, like in Indonesia, where the goats were eating plastic, there was no water anymore. And when the water comes in a few times a year, everything flushes down into the ocean. In Europe, Germany, Belgium, southern part of Holland, we had this big flooding with many people killed, even in Western Europe. And we are now setting up cleanups at those smaller rivers as an awareness deed at the end of September. And then it comes not just to cleaning and awareness, it comes to restoring the rivers, that they have their function for drinking water, for irrigation, grow vegetables, etc., and for keeping people safe. And that way we should take climate adaptation measurements. In Holland, they took them on the big rivers like the Rhine, where they created space for the rivers. In the past 10 years, they had this big program, 100 million program to create space for the rivers, replacing farmers, etc. So that when there's a lot of water like we had, they just open up the land and the dikes, and the water can find its way. And there are no people killed, there are no floodings that were not planned, etc. We need to do the same with the smaller rivers in the mountain parts of Germany, Belgium, and Holland, such that you cannot always replace or remove villages that are ages old, but we can do a lot of things to prevent them from flooding and causing victims. So it's also a start, the 26th of September, to restore our rivers. So this is my presentation, and I really would like to invite you to think about what we together can do to raise the awareness. We are people of action, and also what we can do to start these climate adaptation actions, because we cannot just prevent climate change from happening. It is happening. We see it all around us with the big wildfires around the Mediterranean, with all the pollution that takes place in poor countries where there's a lack of drinking water, with the droughts that are happening and causing irrigation problems like the olives, I say that right, harvesting in the southern part of Italy. It's just vanished. There are century-old lands, and these olive trees, they need at least 50 years to grow before they produce nice ripe olive oil. And some of these trees are 400 or 500 years in the families. And we've spoken to families in the southern part of Italy that just see all the trees now being killed because of this extreme temperatures of 45 degrees Celsius for 2 months and no water. Also, when you look at Africa, when you look at Asia, when you look at Latin America, and of course also the United States and Canada, we all have the same problems. So let's learn from each other. Let's find good ways to do this. We cannot change it overnight, but we can do it step by step. So thank you for your attention.